quite a bit to celebrate for the 1990s, at a time when Japanese automakers were producing absolute gems in the form of venerable engine platforms and very capable, timeless chassis. You had plenty of options to choose from and were backed by an endless supply of aftermarket options. Some of those iconic 90s engines live on to this day, often restored, rebuilt, or completely transformed into monstrous performers. They've managed to stand the test of time over 3 decades, and when modified correctly, continue to deliver undeniable performance. That, along with their user-friendly nature, prompts end users to swap them into every conceivable vehicle type. And while you could opt for various inline-6 offerings from that era, today we're talking about Nissan's heralded 2-liter, 4-cylinder, turbocharged SR20DET. You probably know them best from powering the latter part of Nissan's S-chassis lineup, but the SR20DET first showed its face under the hood of the Series 2 Bluebird sedan, which was mounted transversely with all-wheel drive. And while the US didn't get that exact model, North America was given the Stanza, though it wasn't powered by a boosted 2-liter. Nissan's newly introduced powerplants replaced the CA series engines with the lesser-known 1.8-liter SR18, as well as the 2-liter SR20DE, but it's the turbocharged SR20DET that you care about. Quieter, more powerful than the CA engines, and boasting just over 200 horsepower, it was an instant hit among car buyers, and it wouldn't be long before enthusiasts began tinkering with that new platform and realized it was hiding plenty of power potential. Not long after making its Bluebird debut, the SR20DET made yet another appearance, this time in the pocket-sized Pulsar GTIR, also known as a Sunny GTIR, again using a transverse layout with Nissan's Atessa 4-wheel drive system. In addition, it also featured individual throttle bodies, larger bearings, solid lifters, and a slightly bigger turbo that brought its power output up to 230 horsepower. Developed to compete in the World Rally Championship under Group A guidelines, it managed a 3rd-place finish in the Swedish Rally in 1992, but that would be the extent of Nissan's WRC efforts with the GTIR. They pulled away from the series soon after. To note, the Pulsar and Sunny did earn Title of the Year in Group N competition and drove home the point that Nissan's engine, transmission, and chassis combo was an undeniable force. Just prior to all of that happening, another big debut for Nissan took place with the introduction of their S13 chassis Sylvia for the 1989 model year, a vehicle that immediately garnered incredible fanfare and earned Nissan Car of the Year honors in Japan. The Sylvia itself would remain in Japan, but the hatchback version of that chassis, called the 180SX, was renamed and made its way to Europe as the 200SX. US buyers were offered the hatchback, coupe, and convertible, all of which wore a 240SX badge.
The Nissan 240SX. It's a lot of sports car, but you can handle it.
Confusing naming conventions aside, while the US models were never turbocharged and instead powered by a naturally aspirated 2.4-liter, the JDM Sylvia was first given naturally aspirated and turbocharged versions of that old 1.8-liter CA engine, but for the 1991 model year, they were treated to the soon-to-be fan-favorite SR20DET. With its rear-wheel drive layout and nimble chassis, this would be the first longitudinally mounted version of the engine platform, and because of the Sylvia's success, especially that S13, it helped catapult the SR20DET to legendary status as enthusiasts began pushing the limits of the platform. You can spot an older example of the SR20DET by its rounded red valve cover, but there were more additions that offered more power, and as development continued, the most wanted versions came with later model vehicles. The S14, for example, has a slanted valve cover that slopes downward on the transmission side. It uses a low-port head and a reworked intake manifold plenum. It's fitted with Nissan's VTC, or Variable Timing Control System. Those changes, along with a larger T28 turbo, improved overall response and helped push power output from the low 200s to the 220 horsepower mark. The final version of the venerable SR20DET was found in the S15 Silvia, a chassis that never made it to the US. At a glance, the valve cover looks pretty much the same as a previous model, but closer inspection reveals a few differences. You'll find yet another turbo upgrade on this engine, this time to a T28R, and a larger set of injectors to back that up and take power numbers up to 250 horsepower. Though we're focusing on the SR20DET, it should be mentioned that the SR20VET, which carries the same DNA, is the most powerful of the bunch. Limited to the Nissan X-Trail GT, a compact crossover SUV, it too is a 2-liter 4-cylinder, but with a much better flowing head. It also has more compression, better coolant passages, and a Garrett turbo that all equate to a more reliable setup and 276 horsepower right out of the box. With far less ever having been manufactured, some SR20DET builders find the non-turbo version, the SR20VE, and take advantage of its high-flowing head in place of the DET's top end. Being that it's relatively lightweight, compact enough to fit into countless chassis, and there's plenty of aftermarket support to help make some serious power, what's the downside? Well, for starters, that aforementioned DET head doesn't show a lot of promise as you increase power output, and it could serve as a roadblock to your progression. Rocker arms have proven to be an issue as they're known for becoming unstable at higher RPM. In fact, it's not unheard of to find valve shims dislodged and swimming around in the oil sump, causing some major issues. On the bottom end, its cast beam bearing caps are known weak points once the power really starts ramping up, and that goes for its pistons as well. Finally, the oil delivery intended for the cams is less than ideal, and if you find an engine with high mileage or one that's been neglected, it's likely to show some excessive wear. All of this is typically addressed with a quality buildup, and there are still plenty of aftermarket options available to help multiply power. Americans obsessed with all things JDM have been swapping SR20DET engines into their S13s and 14s for decades. At this point, it's almost a rite of passage. Due to its favorable dimensions and its ability to produce solid power, you'll find these engines in every conceivable Nissan platform, including 1960s era Datsun Fairlady Roadsters, various older Z models, hardbody pickup trucks, the Sentra SER, and many more. It's proven itself on the street, drag strips, road course, and even in rally, and its long range is one of the most popular Japanese engine platforms of all time.